there's a lot of bias going around in the media. None of it is liberal. It's almost all against Bernie Sanders. CNN from time to time supports Hillary Clinton, and other times is vicious to her, and by comparison is enormously kind to the Republicans, as they showed last night in their GOP town hall softball event. Now, speaking of softballs, people have raised an eyebrow about Chris Matthews. It seems like he's throwing a couple softballs in Hillary Clinton's direction. First, let's go to an interview where he lets her do all of her talking points against Bernie Sanders and seems to implicitly agree. Let's watch.
Well, there he is. What do you make of that defense? He says he's in line with the president, and he's not one that the president's talking about. He's not one of those who opposes common sense gun reforms.
Well, that's at variance with his record. You know, Senator Sanders and I have some differences on policy. He's pointed out some of those from his perspective this week. He could today introduce legislation to repeal the immunity that was given to gun makers and sellers. I hope he will join me and the president in supporting real speech, and that's what I'm looking for.
Madam Secretary, I believe he said he will not change his mind on that point, but thank you so much.
All right, look, that's just an interview you can say. Let's go to the next clip, see if he's got any opinions on Bernie Sanders.
So, you know, you're dishonest. Well, wow. You're saying to the former Secretary of State, former Senator from New York, you're dishonest? That's pretty nervy for a young person to say that to a major figure in American life like that kid did. And Hillary, what's she going to say? I'm not dishonest? She has to go back to the motives of those who have raised the questions about her honesty, which is unfortunately for her very much like what she said back during the Monica days when she said there's a vast right-wing conspiracy out to get me. But in fact, there is.
So that's his defense of Hillary Clinton, okay? And look, the right wing has been vicious to Hillary Clinton in the past. Now, okay, if he's even-handed and then defends Bernie Sanders as well, that's a different equation. So let's go to his views on Bernie Sanders and see what we get there.
He's a Democrat. He also says he's a progressive. He's a social Democrat, Democratic socialist, social Democrat, whatever. How can they all be the same? And isn't Hillary into a real problem here of trying to compete with a socialist on how left she's willing to go? And he's getting the title progressive. She's given him the title. Why is he a progressive? He's a socialist. Why is she letting him to even begin to define a progressive? He's a socialist. It's the only label he's a right to because he took it upon himself to say that's what he is. I watched him this morning for an hour and a half. He never mentioned foreign policy, never mentioned security, never mentioned ISIS. It was all the social agenda of socialists or very progressive Democrats. And that's all we talked about.
Did that seem even-handed? Didn't seem very even-handed to me. Look, let's be honest. He's a socialist. Why is she even having this conversation with this guy? Oh, I don't like this guy. It's about the only guy that Chris Matthews doesn't like in the establishment. I'll get to who he does like in a second. So, come to find out, it turns out that Chris Matthews' wife, who's running for office as a Democrat, has some of the same donors as Hillary Clinton. Things that make you go, Has that been disclosed on MSNBC? Of course not, right? And she's got people working for her that used to work with Hillary Clinton. So there are a ton of conflicts of interest here. But finally, I wanted to show you a clip where Chris Matthews is with a Republican, John Kasich. This just happened. To give you a sense of how the establishment thinks. Let's watch.
You were a commentator in the church. As an altar boy, you escalated to a higher level there of greatness. But then you became a commentator for Fox for about 6 or 7 years. How was being a Fox commentator different than being an altar boy?
Well, here's the thing. I got to tell you a great story. I walked in one time and saw Roger Ailes, who is a genius and a friend of mine.
He runs Fox.
He never told you to walk the line or anything over there. What do you think?
I know. I just want to get that.
How far would that have gone?
I like Roger anyway.
Bernie Sanders, socialist. Oh, you were an altar boy, John Kasich. This is on Hardball. And how is being a Fox News commentator different than being an altar boy? That is a hard-hitting question. Okay, but that's not why I played you the clip. I played you the clip for the end there when he said, I like Roger. Roger is Roger Ailes, who, yes, runs Fox News, as Chris Matthews pointed out there. He also used to be in communications for Richard Nixon. And so he did propaganda for Richard Nixon. And he has been quietly behind the scenes one of the biggest power brokers for the Republican Party for decades upon decades. He has done dirty trick after dirty trick, first working for Nixon, then working at Fox News. For example, he hired George Bush's cousin, to call the election in 2000. When it was a statistical tie in Florida, Fox News was the first news network to call it for George W. Bush. And that was George W. Bush's cousin who called the election. And then all the other networks panicked, followed Roger Ailes' lead, and called it for George Bush. He swung the election with a dirty trick. But it doesn't matter. And Chris Matthews, who thinks he's a Democrat, probably thinks he's a progressive, is out there. I like Roger. I like Roger. I like Hillary. I do not like Bernie Sanders. He's a socialist and should be called that right away. Why? Because Bernie Sanders might actually overturn their apple cart. He might actually challenge and change the establishment. Chris Matthews makes millions of dollars every year. You think he wants to see that apple cart overturned? His wife is part of the Democratic Party, running as a Democrat now. You think he wants to see that apple cart overturned? He doesn't want that apple cart. He eats all those apples. Every day he goes home and says to his wife, "How you like them apples?" So Chris Matthews is going to protect the establishment come hell or high water. So when it's Kasich, you play patty cakes with him. You say, I like Roger Ailes. Hey, Chris, no one who wants real change in this country likes Roger Ailes. I can't stand Roger Ailes. Yes, the guy is smart. Yes, you give the devil his due. But do not be under any delusion that he ain't the devil. So the guy has been fixing politics, playing dirty tricks for all these years, supporting the Republicans, helping them get elected, right or wrong. And Chris Matthews thinks, I like Roger. I like Roger. You think these guys are progressive? Not remotely. Gee, I wonder why they're not fair to Bernie Sanders. Can't quite figure it out. In fact, this is one of the reasons you should be for Bernie Sanders. Because if he threatens and challenges these guys that much that they're this scared of him, apparently they think he might actually change this system. Sounds good to me, Young Turks.